The kind of diplomatic escape route, exit route, off ramp, whatever you want to call it, is looking it's looking difficult to focus on right now, Vishnu, because I know it's the right thing to do right now to look at what that possibility is going to be, because one needs to look through the haze of all this combat right now, and a possible escalation by India overnight. And I think you're right when you're talking about these meetings between the Saudi leaders and Pakistan. Any sort of three-way back channel conversation that may be happening, the United States is also trying to step in. Even though I think the sense I get from people I've been speaking to, from what Dr. S. Jaishankar says, from what Vikram Misri said earlier today in response to some of those journalist questions, is that the world respects India's right to defend itself. The world acknowledges that every action that India is taking right now is well within its rights in terms of the kind of damage that Pakistan perpetrated through the attack on innocent civilians in Pahalgam. So, when it comes to diplomatic support, outright support, calling out Pakistan, obviously it's been a bit of a mixed bag. We've seen even some of our closest allies like the United States and others try and prevaricate and equidistant themselves when it comes to terror, which has been embarrassing. But let's never forget the large elephant in the room when it comes to some of these technical issues, including diplomatic. One of them is China. China is a country that is avowedly pro-Pakistan. They've condemned India's attacks on terrorist sites, which is completely aligned with China's past track record of actually blocking India's attempts to proscribe terrorist masterminds and agencies at the United Nations, who are in Pakistan. So that's China for you. China is a factor we've got to look at in terms of any escalation against Pakistan, and I'm sure our political establishment and leadership has done that. The other slightly more complicated variable in all of this, Vishnu, is Russia. Russia is a very close friend of India's, but Russia does have relations with Pakistan as well. Russia has had a slightly up and down kind of track record when it comes to Pakistan and outright condemning some of the things that have happened. For most Indians, Russian support at a time like this should be a given. But even Sergei Lavrov had talked about de-escalation, and both sides cooperating with each other, and all the other, placeholder statements you wouldn't expect from an ally as close as Russia, especially a country that's involved in one of the most damaging and grinding, combat operations in history, which is happening against Ukraine right now. So, as far as India is concerned, all of the actions that have been taken since the beginning of Operation Sindoor indicate that India is navigating this kind of mixed diplomatic scenario in a careful manner. But I think Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary, was right when he said that in terms of support for India's actions, it is overwhelming out there.
Yeah. Shiv, I don't know if we can introduce an element of humor in all of this at this stage. Let me just take a chance and do that. Shiv, I've got bad news for you. Your friends in Chandigarh tomorrow, well, the golf club is closed till 12 noon. So just a little bit of news out there. They won't be able to play golf. Shiv, go ahead.
Well, the golf clubs are going to be the smallest irritation or irritant to daily life, I suspect, Vishnu. I respect that, people are concerned about how this evolving scenario is going to affect their daily lives. But you and I both know this is an extremely serious business. Whether it is Chandigarh, whether it is Pathankot, whether it is cantonments in different parts of the country, I think the priority for the national security system is going to be on, reducing the number of moving parts, reducing the, stress on the, public affairs systems in different administrations, to keep it as laser focused on security, efficiency, reducing chaos, avoiding panic. The mock drills, of course, played a big part in that. But beyond that as well, this is a large country with in some ways, an unmanageably high population. evacuation, which is a huge asset to this country, but it also becomes a major sort of efficiency evacuation challenge if things spiral out of control. And therefore we can be reasonably sure that all of our internal security mechanisms will also be parallelly focused on that, Vishnu, because you've reported war, Vishnu. You've reported India's last big war in Kargil firsthand at those heights, so you know what it's like in those forward areas and beyond. It is a monumental task, to manage large numbers of people, which can be a very chaotic proposition. Things, of course, have improved vastly since 1999, but it continues to be a challenge even now, and the government is definitely cognizant of it.
There's this bizarre piece of news which has come in. The fact that it comes from the Pakistani, a statement by the Pakistani government, and I'll read it out, is that the government of Pakistan categorically rejects the baseless and irresponsible allegations propagated by the Indian media. The media always, of course, attacked, accusing Pakistan of launching attacks on Pathankot, Jaisalmer and Srinagar. Now, these claims are entirely unfounded, politically motivated, and part of a reckless propaganda campaign aimed at maligning Pakistan. This is the most bizarre statement that we've seen all evening, because what is all of this footage that you're seeing on your screen? We've had footage from Pathankot, we've had footage from Jaisalmer and from Srinagar as well. And for Pakistan to suggest now that these places haven't been attacked, fairly laughable. We're joined by General Narasimhan, Admiral Shekhar Sinha, Major General Ranjan Kochar and Admiral Anil Chawla. Admiral Shekhar Sinha, let me come to you first. We have gone up the escalatory matrix right now. Naval forces, whether they've been operationalized whether they've been used to strike Pakistan or not, we still don't know. But do you see that as a possibility as, things seem to be becoming worse?
Vishnu, thank you for getting me on your program. I think the escalation ladder, the Navy will obviously be the ultimate one, because it's all long-range weapon. These are not short wars, and when it goes out of submarine or a ship, it's going to hit and create a very big chaos, and it will probably hit a target which is economically very important to Pakistan. So it's going to become a economic warfare. But I would say that the violation of the airspace by the drone in Sar Creek area, which is very close to Gujarat, is a very clear indication that the Pakistanis are not going to stop here. And I'm sure that the government and the naval headquarters and the naval hierarchy is all ready all across the Makran coast, and they only have to be told where they want to start the action. As you know, Navy has the ability to be very flexible and shift the entire focus of warfare to a different theater. And if we find that pressure on our army, on our western border becomes high, then positively there will be a requirement to shift the Pakistani army's attention to somewhere else where they will have to move their troops. So I think this is the one of the important ones in the pack, the wolf in the pack, if I may say so. But one provocation has been that the drone has been shot down in Sar Creek, which is very close to our Gujarat border.
Yeah, that's true. Admiral Anil Chawla, how do you see the developments that are now taking place? Do you believe that India is obliged to respond to this with as much force, if not more, if that's not already happened?
Thank you, Shom. I think this is war in all but formal declaration, and I think India is responding very rightly so, with the very proportional and measured responses. And I think Pakistan is feeling the heat. We have seen the damage that has been wrought to their air force and their air defense systems. And we've also seen that their attacks, which you rightly said, with their claiming they have not happened. But interestingly, this I wanted to point out is a standard Pakistani tactic, because even after the Uri attacks, by the Indian army, the Pakistani army said nothing happened. So this is a standard denial. If it's a failure, they deny it's ever happened, as long as they can sort of stand that. Similar to what they said, that 5 Air Force jets have been shot down, Indian Air Force jets, and when the defense minister was asked, he said, "I've seen it on social media." So I mean, the response of the Indian state, I think, has been very strong, and I think will continue to be strong. And I think Pakistan is feeling the heat now. And I totally agree with Admiral Sinha that if the Navy is called in, it'll obviously be further up the escalation ladder, but that will really then send them running for cover because they really don't have a great endurance to be able to fight for a very long time, particularly if the sea routes are blocked.
All right, Admiral Sinha, in terms of this battle of drones, this is a new form of warfare. We've really seen this over the last couple of years. Of course, in the Russia-Ukraine war, the use of drones has really expanded. But this is a new way of fighting, and it's cheaper, certainly. It's perhaps less effective, but obviously, since these are unmanned, the risks are lower. Warfare in the subcontinent has changed in the last 3 days. Your thoughts?
Particularly when it comes to warfare on land over land, very much the drones are extremely effective and the low cost solution. As you have seen that even on the land border right now, or the attacks which have been carried out, it has been a mix of drones and the manned aircraft and the missiles. So I would think that at sea, you saw what happened in Red Sea area during the Houthi attacks. A lot of drone attacks have gone in. But I want to point out something very significant for the Navy. Fighting a naval battle in a confined space like Red Sea, for a Navy, it's a confined space, Vishnu, and open Arabian Sea is quite different because, there is much more room for ships to maneuver, stay out of the ranges of the drone, and much more time to engage the drone and shoot it down. And the Navy has fair amount of ability now to fight do an anti-drone war. So I would think that yes, it is a cheap method of doing it, and that actually creates the asymmetry and always in favor of the guy who's using the low-cost solution. And that's exactly what Pakistan is doing now. We have to just wear them out, Vishnu. They don't have very much. I don't think except for one country, anybody is giving them any money to fight this. They will wear out sometime or the other. The government has just taken a very right decision that just wear them out and make sure that you shoot down everything that comes. After all, every attack is consuming the number of missiles, Vishnu, and it's not endless. And we are saving our missile, and we have much bigger stock, Vishnu.
No, that's absolutely correct. Admiral Chawla, let me come to you first. Again, for the benefit of our viewers, in a war-type situation, when does a government or our government potentially consider the use of the Navy? It's not the first thing that you do.
I think it is when the sort of escalation reaches a point where the conflict is going to be lengthened, that there is a requirement to get in the economic aspect of it, as Admiral Sinha pointed out. And essentially, one of the major assets that the Navy brings to play is blocking the economic lines, the sea lines of communication or sea lines of economic support, in simple terms, that the other country has. And Pakistan is particularly vulnerable in this regard. They really have only two major ports in and around Karachi, and the one in Gwadar, while it is operational, is not very well connected. So it can't really be used to really supplement or replace what is available in Karachi. So therefore, being reliant on a single port for them is an Achilles heel. And this is something that if the Indian Navy, like the 1971 war, brings its operational might to bear on that, I think they will really have a tough time. And I think this is something that they would be in their minds, definitely, that this is what has happened in the past and this is what can happen now. So I think at what stage the government brings it in will depend obviously on the strategic situation at that time. But it is essentially when you want the sea lines of communication to be stopped, for the country to be starved of any further oil and ammunition. And as I brought out earlier, and as Admiral Sinha mentioned, they don't have any great stockpiles. We are aware of that. And most of the missiles and the drones that they are sending across are being shot down. And as such, drones are largely a tactical weapon. They're very effective tactically, but they are not really of any great strategic impact. So therefore, I think it will be up to the government when to bring the Navy in, but it would be when I think a tipping point has been reached, and the government feels that it's now time to use the sea pressure to bring in to bear on Pakistan on its already very fragile economy.
All right, let's just go across to Shiv one more time. Shiv, before I come to Shiv, the news from Chandigarh is that in a small period of time, if not already, they will be switching on the lights. But then there is this request to citizens there that, look, please maintain a voluntary blackout. So that's what we are hearing. Shiv, anything else that you're picking up?
These blackouts are happening in different cities, Vishnu. So I think this is going to be a little bit of a sort of a story in motion. I think people should expect. Short notice announcements of this kind by their administrations, whether it is blackouts, whether it is power outages, etc., for the next few hours or days as this situation evolves. Because, just a couple of hours ago, we were in the middle of reporting a very, very high voltage confrontation between India and Pakistan, missiles, drones, air defense systems being used, the line of control being lit up with artillery, etc. I've just got information from our contact in the Uri sector that there have been some injuries and possibly some casualties on the Indian side, from shelling by the Pakistan side. Civilians, I'm talking about, not military. This kind of thing is going to happen, Vishnu. Whether it is Chandigarh, whether it is Amritsar, whether it is Jalandhar, Avantipora, Adampur, Kapurthala, all of the cities that were on that list that the Indian Ministry of Defence put out in its statement as having been defended by integrated air defence, but also other cities. We're talking about places in Rajasthan, we're talking about places in Gujarat. All of these places will fall under that national security umbrella right now, as being places of interest, if I can use that phrase, in terms of what Pakistan is attempting to do. They're looking to, get their weapons to wreak some kind of damage in some kind of high-profile location, and that's perhaps the reason why we're seeing, evacuations from public places, sanitization of some areas. This is where all that practice actually comes into effect. The fact that those mock drills haven't happened since 1971 is obviously something that would have borne down on the establishment's mind very deeply. But this is where that starts making its money as well, and that starts paying off in terms of reducing public panic, avoiding chaos, increasing efficiency of administrative services in getting people to safety, should the balloon go up even further than it already has, Vishnu.